So excited for today's guest. We are joined by pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays organization, bringing back the dark arts of the knuckleball to the club. Jordan Powell, welcome to the walk-off, buddy. Thanks so much for taking the
Thank you.
time.
Of course, anytime.
How is your first month of professional baseball been, man?
I mean, it's been crazy. Like from spring training, even like starting there, getting here, it's just been like a dream come true. Like especially with like not playing baseball for the last 2 years, it was kind of like really eye opening to be like, hey, like anybody can do it. Like it doesn't matter if you're in or out of baseball. Like if you work your heart out, like you'll be fine. But it's been fun. Like spring training, all the games were kind of like inter squads and everything. It was pretty relaxing. Like wasn't too bad. And then I got called up last week, and they're like, "Hey, like you're gonna cover 2 innings at the Yankees game or whatever." Didn't throw, and this I had just had my first outing, and I was like freaking out, like because it's
So
been two
you were
years.
nervous, right? You were
Oh my
nervous.
gosh. I came off the mound after I struck out the side, and I looked at my head coach and I just go, I'm so scared right now. But but it's okay. I got it out of my system. And they're all laughing, like just having a fun time. But then I had my second one just last week, and like the difference in both outings was like unreal. Like I looked at my pitching coach as I was warming up in the bullpen. I said, I'm at peace. Like I'm ready.
Before
So
we even get into your story, which is such an awesome story, by the way, I love the determination you have shown just to get to where you're at. But honestly, man, huge congratulations
thank
on
you so
getting signed by the Jays. Like it really is an indication that working your butt off and perseverance does work out. So congrats, man. Well done.
much. Thank you so much.
So let's start then. Let's
All
start with
right.
independent. I want to start with independent baseball.
Okay.
You played numerous indie leagues throughout your
Yeah.
career before becoming a part of an affiliate baseball team. What was that experience like? I ask because most pro ball in Canada is independent. The travel is long. You're on buses, and then there's also like that mental grind of constantly trying to stay focused on also being scouted and getting seen. What was that
Yeah.
experience like?
It was fun. It was kind of frustrating, like going from college to indie ball, it's like a completely different um experience. Getting there, like basically what happened, like kind of like with my story was like I got to indie ball because I told my college, I was like, I'm not playing for you guys anymore. I was like, it's time for me to go to professional baseball. And I was like, I'll make it through there. And back then I was a conventional pitcher. Like I threw
Mhm.
hard and get there. First outing comes around right before I'm going out for my first outing. They're like, hey, your grandfather just passed away. So, and that was with Lake Erie. So that happened. And so I was just like a mental wreck out there. I throw, don't do that well. They let me go home. And then I came back the following day. And as soon as I got back, they're like, hey, we've got affiliate guys coming in, like, you're done. So that happened. And then I was kind of struggling mentally with all that stuff over the next like 3 months. I ended up being in the Pioneer League with the Northern Colorado Owls.
Mhm.
I went out to the mound. We had an inter squad like the week before, and I sat 95, 96, topping seven, just absolutely dealing. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to be great going into this start. Get to the start, first three batters come up, I walk all three of them in a row. I don't even think I threw one strike. And I was like, I just wasn't mentally prepared for it. And then got released. I played for this team called the Black Sox, and basically they take guys that get released out of indie ball in, and we drive around the country and basically play these independent ball teams to like get re-signed. So I
Very
ended up
cool.
signing with the Empire State Grays, which they had like a 50-0 losing record at the time. So like it made sense at the time why they took me, because they're like, this kid has an 18 ERA in the Pioneer League. Like,
He'll fit right in.
yeah, like they'll be fine. We'll throw him in the fire. Funny that you say like with the Canadian teams, I pitched against. There's one week where I threw against the Quebec Capitales, where they're the number one team in the league, and I threw a complete game shutout, and my catcher threw a ball over third base to the winning run in. And so like that was like super frustrating. But it was kind of like in indie ball, like the difference between indie ball and affiliated from what I've seen so far is like if you make one mistake in independent baseball, you're done because there's some affiliate guy that just got released that's just waiting to
Mhm.
get on a team. And so they're like, hey, like this is the next better thing. Like everything's so political, basically. Like, hey, you're coming from the Blue Jays or you're coming from the Tigers, like we'll take you over some kid that's never played affiliated before.
Right.
Yeah, so that was basically like my indie ball experience. I threw with the Empire
So
State Race.
there, did you feel stress? Like, did you feel the
Oh,
stress of
all
that?
the
Yeah.
time. All the time on edge because you're watching guys go every day and there's no like there's no help and like it's different here than like with the Blue Jays you're talking to all your managers, all the directors talk to me, like I talk to Joe Sheehan all the time, like he's always out there watching me throw. And so like having those relationships with people really builds up your confidence, versus like feeling like you have to walk around on eggshells all the time. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's
how I
tough
need.
to settle in. I can imagine if you constantly feel like your back's against the wall, it's tough to
Yeah,
just relax and let it find you.
exactly. Exactly. So that was kind of frustrating, and that was a crazy year. That's for sure.
So let's get into the knuckleball then, because honestly, man, I love knuckleball pitchers, and I love
Really?
them because they're really the most fascinating unicorn in sport to me. It's pitchers dropping their arm slot on steroids, basically, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
Hail Mary at professional baseball. It's the road less traveled. So what convinced you to start throwing your knuckleball almost exclusively? And how did that decision wind up getting the attention of Major League Baseball teams and eventually winding up with a contract with the Jays?
Yeah. So basically, what happened was there was that year of indie ball that I told you about. As a conventional pitcher, I'd throw a knuckleball maybe once every four batters. Like, hey, throw it in there. Like, this is what I have. I didn't have a changeup, so the knuckleball was my changeup. Um, Last year, I wasn't able to get an indie ball team. Nobody would take me because they're like, you have two 18 ERAs with two different teams. Like, this is just not. You're a stock rate. Like we can go find a stock righty anywhere with a better ERA than you. So I was like, I mean, that's fair enough. So I get to this place called Tread Athletics for the off season. Normally I was training at Cressy Sports Performance, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go try Tread. I'm going to try to throw 100 miles an hour. Like this is what we're going to do. And I kind of had like a tank off with my velo. Like I was only like 2 to 4 at the time. And they took a this thing called a mocap. It's basically your intake pin. You throw all your pitches and they compare it to Major League Baseball players. So one of my pitches was a knuckleball. I was like, I'll throw this. So I throw the first one off the mound, and my coach, Leif Strom, looked at me and he said, do that again. And I was like, what? My knuckleball? He's like, yeah, throw it again. So I threw it again. He's like, throw it again. So I ended up throwing like 6 of these because he wanted to see if it was a fluke or not, basically, like
Right.
when it happened. And he looks over at me, looks over at some other coaches, and he goes, I know how we're getting you to the big leagues. And I was like, really? Like, I was like, nobody's gonna sign me for a knuckleball. He's like, no, you're gonna come to this pro day, you're gonna throw 95 and you're gonna throw that knuckleball. So pro day comes around, I'm just all amped up. I sat 80 to 84 with my knuckleball. And then yeah.
Wait, wait,
I,
wait, 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 wait. Just
yeah,
stop for 1 second here. You threw a knuckleball 84 miles an hour?
it's like 84.6.
How is that even possible?
I
Like, is
just
that,
that's just how I throw my knuckleball. Is like I think of a
dude, that's
fast.
got to be one of the fastest knuckleballs ever, no?
Well, so that's what happened. I got done, and everybody, the scouts are all looking at me. My coaches are looking at me, and like 6 scouts go up to my coach, and I was like, okay, like what's happening? And he comes over to me. He goes, dude, you just threw the third hardest knuckleball in MLB history. And I was like, oh, really? And so he's like, yeah, he goes, you've got 6 teams interested in you. And he like named off the teams and whatever. Didn't hear anything about the Blue Jays. Um, so Tread posted that video the same day, and they're like, hey, here's your standouts. Because I think like 150 kids threw. And he posted the video with my knuckleball, and apparently Sheehan saw it. So we're playing poker that night, and we were like making jokes like, oh, what if a team called one of us tonight and it happened or whatever, and all of a sudden my phone lights up and it says Toronto, Canada, and I was like, guys, like there's no way. And so I answer the phone, and he's like, hey, is this Jordan Powell? I was like, yeah, this is. I was like, who is this? He goes, this is Joe Sheehan, assistant GM of the Blue Jays. So I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he's like, what are you doing right now? I was like, I'm playing poker right now. He's like, is this a bad time? I was like, no, this is like a fantastic time. Like you could
Because
call me at
imagine
4
you're
a.m.
like, you know what? Can you call me back? I'm in the middle
Yeah.
of a big
Hey,
hand.
I'm busy right now. Like, no, there's no way. I was like, you could call me in the middle of the night and I could have food poisoning and I'm going to take your phone. So yeah, he called me and he was like, "Hey, we're really interested in you. We have connections with R.A. Dickey, and we want you to work with him during spring training and everything. And he's going to be basically your coach." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds sweet." So he called me back the following day, basically laid out like what they're going to offer me and everything, and I told him, I was like, yeah, honestly, this is more beneficial to me than any type of monetary amount. Just having Ari Dickey as my coach is the most electric thing ever. Cause like I can make my
Man.
money on the road, but I can go on my phone right now and text RA and just be like, hey, I struggled with this today. What do you think? Here's the video. What do
Literally
you think?
one of my favorite ball players of all time. He's over my shoulder
I
here.
see him
That
right there. Yeah.
that must have been so surreal, eh? To like be like, I'm gonna try and be a knuckleballer. And the Jays are like, how about we give you arguably the greatest knuckleballer to ever throw the pitch to work with?
Yeah. So like it's been fantastic. Like spring training was like a movie. It was so cool. But
Unreal.
great being able to work with him. He's
So
supposed to be.
what's RA like? Just to like learn from. How is he as a coach?
So first of all, he is the most genuine person I've ever met in my life. Like I've met a lot of big leaguers before, and like I live around guys like Shaq and stuff, and like most guys like that, like your famous people, like don't really want to make conversation, don't really care about other people. But RA was like just incredible. Like he wanted to know more about, your faith and what's going on in your life than just like talking baseball. He was taking
Mm,
us out to dinner every night and just like really genuinely cares about how you're doing as a human being first and then baseball second.
I
So
love
it
that,
was
man. And
it
that's
was a,
that's a rarity too, especially
yeah.
especially as you start to climb the ranks in baseball. It's not like they're not invested in you as a person, but I mean, there's so many guys around. So do you have like for you to have like this your own guru? Very
Yeah.
cool, dude. Very,
Yeah.
very cool.
It's been awesome. It's been so awesome. I think it's just because of the pitch too. Like he talks about like the Jedi Council and everything. It's like one day it's something you hope you can be a part of, and to
Mhm.
like make that legend go on with the knuckleball.
Throwing the knuckleball, and I've never done it, so I'm guessing, but from afar, it looks like a lonely road to plow because there's not a lot of you. Like I can imagine that a lot of your training, a lot of your practices and stuff is by yourself. I can even imagine live BP is more for you than the hitter. It's not like the hitter's gonna
Yeah,
learn to hit a knuckleball, right?
exactly. Yeah, with that, like he taught me some drills and stuff like that. And it's funny that you say that. It is lonely. Every day I'm begging a different pitcher to throw with me. I'm like, hey, who wants to throw with me today? They're like, I'm not catching that. And so it's been the coaches most of the time will have to catch me. And they just like everybody gets frustrated with it because I hit them. Like, and it's not soft. And so I've started like offering guys like dinner, like, hey, I'll get you dinner, or hey, I'll do this for you, like just so I can
So
have
who's
somebody.
Jordan? Who's the unlucky guy who has to catch you when you're throwing?
Uh, so lately it's been our pitching coach Yoel.
Okay.
He's had to catch me. One guy I've got to get me 3 times, but as of yesterday, he said after today, I'm never doing that again. Because when I first got here 2 weeks ago, I cut my nails short. And so it was good, but it wasn't like really good. And now it's moving like 4 or 5 different directions. And he's like just scared for his life. He's like, hey, dude, I love you as a person, but like, I can't do this. Like, we have to break up basically.
Yeah. I love it.
Like,
It's like,
let me
Jordan,
down.
listen, if you threw a 65-mile-an-hour knuckleball, maybe I'd be more interested in this.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, do you vary your speed on that, or are you just throwing it as hard as you can every time?
So I was throwing it as hard as I can, and then RA got here, and we worked in the pitching lab and stuff. And he was like, "So basically, you want to take your top end knuckleball that you're throwing every day when you go out, and take it down to like 80%, and have like that 75, 74 mile an hour range, and then be able to drop it down off of that, and then go back up to 80." So right now I'm throwing it between 68 and like 81, 82.
Yeah.
Um, which the knuckleball velocity is kind of tanked a little bit because it's like I'm not throwing fastballs anymore at all. Like
Yeah.
not even in catch play. Every throw is a knuckleball. So like I gotta remember that I need to condition my arm too while I'm doing it. But yeah, we have varying speeds. I've got right now it's been working for me. I've certain pitch counts where I'll throw them harder or softer. And can't really talk about that right now because I know a lot of teams now are like, okay, how do we hit this kid? And like I'm having success. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
want to put that
let's not
out
give
there.
away your secrets. I'm all for that.
Yeah, yeah. I can't put that out there right now. Maybe in a
uh,
couple of years.
do you have a nail salon? Do you have a manicurist, or have you just gotten good with the file?
My goodness, I suck with the file. I've never used a file before. It's like I would just like clip my nails, and Ari was like, "You can't clip your nails." He's like, "Don't do that; it'll crack." And when he got here, like I've never cracked a nail before, and he got here what 2 months ago, and he was like, "Okay, we're gonna throw 2 bullpens a day for 3 days straight." And I was like, "Okay." So there's
Did you crack a nail then?
the stress was down. And I cracked a nail, and so that was like the night before they called me up. I was dealing with this cracked nail, and I went and I just tried to like clip it off fully. So I cut it down, and 5 minutes later, I get a call. Hey, you're going to low A. And I was like, oh, here we
No.
go. Yeah, yeah. But this week, my nail actually split in half and went back under my other nail. So I had to cut this one off and then kept those two long because I throw mine with 3 fingers. I've got a baseball here. If you ever want to see it later, we can do that.
Yeah, actually lay it on me right now here. Let's see your grip.
So, like your conventional knuckleballer, he'll come up on the horseshoe and he'll hold it
Yeah.
like that, two over. But they're also pushing the ball. They want to push over to create the no spin. But how I found success with it is I come in the horseshoe upside down. I put 3 fingers there in the horseshoe, not touching the laces. I'll put my pinky on the side here, and I'll usually put my thumb here or here, depending on what type of direction I
Yeah.
want it to go. And I just think fastball. So I want to create so much arm speed that I just can't hold on to the ball anymore, and it just pops out.
Interesting. Who taught you to do that? Is that self-taught, or is that like and on top of that, on top of who taught you, how long have you been messing with a knuckleball? Like, is this something you've been just messing with since you were 16, or is this something that's
Uh,
pretty recent?
so when I basically made baseball my new sport over soccer, I was a pitcher and I couldn't throw a changeup. Like my hand was too small or something. Just it wouldn't work out for me. And my dad pitched when he was younger, and he was like, "Hey, you should learn a knuckleball." So like when I was like 11, I just like started throwing it like this, and whenever one of my buddies was throwing 95 at me from 60 feet away, I'd be like, "All right, you're getting a knuckleball." And so it's more so just something to just like joke around with, and just
Yeah.
have something cool in your back pocket. And that's just
Unreal.
how I got good at it, just having fun as the game should be played, just having fun.
I love how that all played out. It's funny how something you're just messing around with can actually wind up like being your meal ticket, man. Very, very
Yeah,
cool.
makes zero sense to me, but we're here and I love it.
So I make my living as a stand-up comic. I tour professionally.
Okay.
I'm on cruise ships and shit like that. And it's funny because I always have like this idea that baseball players and comedians have a lot in common. Just we're on the road so much, right? We're
Yeah,
the only professions where people just feel like it's fine for them to yell and scream at us, right? Like we're the
yeah,
ones with hecklers, right?
yeah.
And I always liken knuckleball pitchers to one-line comics, right? And some of the best comics in the world have been one-line comics, Mitch Hedberg, Stephen Wright. But the thing with being a one-line comic is you've got one gear, right? And
Yeah.
so if the crowd just isn't into you, it is a fiery crash and burn. And there's
Uh-huh.
nothing you can do because that's your
Yeah.
act, right? And I always kind of compare that to knuckleballs because knuckleballers are kind of similar. So I am curious because I remember It would have been a game in, I think, 2014. It was July. R.A. Dickey was pitching, and he struck out the side in the first inning. His knuckleball dude was dancing. It was a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
Second inning comes around, and literally full count, first batter hits the side of the strike zone, but he doesn't get the call. Guy walks. Same thing.
Mhm.
Another full count, walks the next guy. Next guy hits a double. Now it's 2-0. Guy on second. He walks another guy. And again, this whole time we're talking full counts, just not getting the call. Like, and next
Uh-huh.
thing you know, he's getting pulled in the second. So
Yeah.
how do you mentally, how are you able to compartmentalize shit like that? Because I can imagine he did everything he wanted to do, right? Like the ball was doing everything he wanted to do, just wasn't getting the call. That's going to
Mhm.
happen. You don't wish to beat yourself up too much about that. How do you take that, compartmentalize it, and still mentally stay focused and confident in what you're doing?
So up until RA came, I had no clue how to react to that because, like, I'll tell you the story. So coming out first outing, I was I was insane. I was gross, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. This is during spring training. It was just an inter squad game, and then second outing was good. Like, had a great time. Third outing comes around. I'm having so much success. My bullpens are gross. Everything. I come out and I walked 5 batters in a row, and I was like, and I thought, because I don't watch the pitch, I can't see the pitch, and I'm just seeing it not land in the zone, go left, right, up, down, all this stuff. And I'm like, I was starting to get like really frustrated and walked off. I ended up like striking one kid out. So I think it was like 5 walks, 1 strikeout. And all the pitching coaches are standing behind. And I got done and I'm walking out and I was kind of like, I think I was on edge. It's more so like, hey, like I failed these people. Like
That independent reaction, right? Where you're
I
like,
was
oh no.
yeah, exactly. I was like, I was doing so well, and then where'd this go? And they all looked at me and they're like, that was the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, your ball was moving so much that there was like a force field around the zone. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's good. And then RA came like the following week, and at dinner one time, he was telling us, he was like, hey, like you have to remember, like as a knuckleballer, there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be a ton of them. He's like, you're going to have success for a month straight, and then you'll have failure for a month straight. That's just how the pitch works. And he's like, some of my best days, I got removed in the second inning, like what you're talking about right there. He said some of my best days, I got out in the second inning, and I was like, what am I supposed to do? But he's like, just trusting that you have an organization that's behind your back, like really pushing for you to be the next guy to come out is like for me that's like kind of where my piece is, and that everybody understands that I can't be perfect with this. Like my first outing where I struck out the side, I didn't strike out the side until I walked the first guy, walked the second guy, struck out the next guy, then the next guy got a hit, and then I struck out the last two, and those two of their best hitters on the team. And so I had bases loaded, and I was like, oh no, if this doesn't go well, like, but it's just kind of reminding yourself that you're going to be okay. Like they're not, they understand that you're not a 97 to 98 mile an hour arm that is just trying to throw strikes. Because if you can't throw strikes as one of those guys that throws hard, like that's where it's like, okay, this is different. They can't control, I can't control how many different times this ball is going to move and where it's going to land. I'm thinking throw it at the catcher's mask, let it just fall in and do its thing somewhere around there.
That's
So it's
really
more so just like
interesting.
not being hard on yourself.
Yeah. That's really interesting too that you don't see where the ball's going. So when you're going through the mechanics and you're going through your windup, your whole goal is just release point, and then you look up and hope it's in the strike zone or what?
Yeah, so like I kind of snap my neck a little bit when I'm trying to throw it harder. But what I'm saying, it's like it's a lot harder to focus on looking at the ball completely. Like I'll see where the ball lands, but I can't see if it's spinning, if it's going sideways, if it's doing this. I also black out every time I go pitch. Like I gotta go back and look at the media and MILB and be like, okay, what did I do here? What did I do here?
Oh man.
Like it's I just don't see anything, don't hear anything, and I only remember strikeouts. Like it's the weirdest thing.
So you have completely you're just straight up 100% knuckleballs. You don't throw the fastball at all anymore.
So right now, I was I was throwing fastball cutter with it, like 80-20. So I'd throw
Mhm.
80% balls, 20% something else. And with the way that I've transitioned into throwing all knuckleballs, it's kind of made my arm path a little slower. So I'm behind on my fastball, and my fastball is going at the top of the zone, which that's where you want to throw your fastball because that's where you're starting your knuckleball. But I
Yeah.
found a lot of success in just throwing a cutter because I can get down and I can get on top of it and get out of it. And so right now I'm knuckleball cutter. So I'm
So
throwing the cutter at like 85 to 87 right now and
so
just dropping.
Jordan, going from a conventional pitcher to a knuckleballer, I'm curious what it has been like when it comes to just the grip and stuff. Like everyone, sticky stuff was such a big deal, and just
Yeah.
getting a good grip on the ball, and even we're seeing an increase in TJ surgeries with velocity hitting so much higher, and guys. Saying they're needing to squeeze the ball harder because of the new rules with not being able to, stick up the ball. Is there is it easier to hold the ball with a knuckleball besides all the cracking nails and the nightmare that is your fingers now? Like, does it feel grippier or is it just
Yeah, honestly, it's been great. The only time I don't like a baseball that I receive is if it's dirty. Like I don't want a ball to be dirty, which is nice. Now you're playing an affiliated baseball. I don't have to worry about that. I get a new ball anytime this thing touches the ground. So like
Yeah,
I'm
I can
happy.
imagine there's times in independent ball where you're like the ball's dirty. They're like, suck it up, princess.
Yeah,
Like,
basically, yeah. You gotta throw with that. No, I like it because you're getting a brand new ball every time. I don't have to worry about, hey, what's this ball going to feel like? And I
mhm.
actually like throwing the major league balls better, but it's a completely different feel of a ball. Like it feels like you're throwing a rock. The major league balls are a lot tighter.
Interesting.
They're a little plasticky. They got to kind of have some slip because I don't want the ball to be too like basically rubbed up because then my nails might catch or whatever. But those big league balls are slippery. So
Right.
like it just lets it come out even easier.
That it's like you're the one guy not complaining about the balls at the major league level. I love it.
I mean, I'll throw
Every
a
pitcher we
golf
talk to is
ball.
like, I just wish they'd scuff them up a little more.
Yeah,
So I know you touched on the fact that R.A. Dickey got into camp and he's like, all right, kid, you're throwing two bullpens a day for like 3 or 4 days in a row, which I
yeah,
mean, can you kind of break down how different the rest is between when you were a conventional pitcher and just your routine as a conventional
yeah.
pitcher to now as a knuckleballer, where I'm guessing you're throwing what, 5, 6 times a week?
I get off the mound every day.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a nice thing though. But as a conventional pitcher, like I would throw and I'd be sore for 3 or 4 days, but
Yeah.
you're usually throwing on day 2 or day 3 again. So it's like, you're like, okay, am I going to have my velocity today? Okay. Am I going to be able to throw without it hurting today? And now with the knuckleball, it's kind of like, it's gotten to the point where like, I technically don't even need to stretch. I can just go out there and throw it because it has no impact on my arm at all. So every day I'll throw a bullpen
So do you
before the
not deal with soreness at all now?
no.
Wow, dude.
Like I even had a Tommy John in college. Like that doesn't even bother me. The
Huh.
only time I get sore ever is if I play ping pong for like 3 hours before the game. That's the only time I'll ever get sore.
I love that. So it's funny. Right now, you look at the major leagues, and there isn't a knuckleball pitcher. I mean, there's Matt Waldron with the Padres, and
Yeah,
he's throwing. I know he, for the first time in his whole career, threw over 50% knuckleballs just recently. But you look at his stats, and he averages about 35% of the time. So the Blue Jays organization hasn't had a knuckleballer since RA. And I know that you're not alone right now. They brought you in. And then, of course, there's
yeah,
Ryan Chase.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
He's my roommate actually.
that which is so cool. I
Yeah.
love that so much. And I know you're both in Dunedin right now. So I'm
Oh,
curious, man.
he's at the complex actually, but
Oh,
he's
he is
in.
still at the
But
complex,
they
right?
they kept me in the same hotel as him. I haven't been moved in yet because I just got to low A.
Yeah.
But so I'm still able to bounce all that stuff off of him.
Which is incredible. And that's what I was going to ask you is Did having another knuckleball, and I know that you're both at different stages of learning the pitch and all of that
Yeah.
sort of stuff, and you're a little bit further ahead with just how long you've been throwing the ball that way. Did it make a difference having a guy you could kind of? I can imagine just having a guy you can kind of lean on when you're struggling
Yeah.
with shit made a difference, eh?
1000%. Because like the pitching coaches don't know what to do with us. They just, if it lands in the strike zone, they're happy. Because none of them know how to teach it. But like with having Ra there, basically while Ra was there, he picked up on stuff that I was bad at. He picked up on stuff that Ryan struggled with. And then we both heard that. And now when we're seeing each other do that, because we play catch every day when I was still at the complex and during spring training and everything, we play catch every day. So I'd be like, hey, you're doing this thing. I know how to fix that. And he would do the same with me. So like it was very beneficial having him during spring training and being able to bounce different stuff off of our each other's heads. And like I like for some reason he's struggled with his nail care a little bit and he has longer nails, way longer nails than me. And I told him, I was like, for me, like I like shorter nails. And so he tried that out one day and he had a lot of success with it. And so it's like finding the middle ground. What works for
Right.
him might not work for me, but this other thing that I do can work for him, and this other thing he can do works for me. So it was great. Because we're all
Have you tried each other's grips out? Like how
I,
four eyes try each other glasses?
yeah,
No?
we've done it, and like I throw curveballs like this, and
Yeah,
then
that's
he throws curveballs like this. Like we've tried it, it doesn't make sense for us. It's just the way our body works, and it works out that way.
oh man, I love that.
But Ryan Chassis is an amazing guy. Like I love that kid. He's
Chassis. Perfect. I'm glad you said his name because I've never heard it said out loud, and I'm like, okay, Ryan Chase or Chassis. It's one of the two.
Chassis.
So
Yeah, we
okay,
just call him
perfect.
Chassis.
I love it. I love it. All right. So 25 years old.
Yes, sir.
And I asked this question with the utmost respect, all right? But I am curious if you at any point get it before getting into affiliate ball, if the thought of quitting crossed your mind, just because you are older than a lot of the, I love how quick you're like, nope.
Yeah. You continue your question, then I'll answer it.
Well, I just know that, once you start to get above the age of 23 and you've yet to hit affiliate ball, most guys call her a day, right?
Yeah.
And it's not often you see a guy your age break with an affiliate team. So
Yeah. So basically,
how did you keep that going? Like, how did you keep that fire burning and never just succumb
honestly,
to quitting?
I would say it was my family. My family was always super supportive. Like I wasn't allowed to have a job at all. It was always like focus on your sport, everything like that. And like over the years, like before I tore my UCL, I was talking to professional scouts and professional teams. And then when I got to junior college, again, I was talking to some teams, and then COVID hit us. And like I got offered a free agent signing deal, turned it down. And I always knew there was something. Like I was like, I can do this if I keep saying, because I've seen as a conventional pitcher, I've seen glimpses of a big leaguer potentially in me. And so I was like, if I can create this every day, then I can get it. And so it's like, I'm just going to keep working. And my dad just kept supporting me.
Mm.
It's funny, up until this year, like my mom, I think, kind of got on my dad's case a little bit about all the support. And
Yeah.
she was like, he's 25, like it's time. So like right around January of last year, my dad was like, hey, like this is the last year I'm supporting you because it's not fair to like your other five brothers and sisters and all this stuff. Like, and honestly, I would have been scared, kind of, and like fearful of what might happen, and like, oh, I got to work a job and do this. I still would have done it, but one of my buddies with the Marlins, Daniel Castano, he was on the big league team, and he trained with me at Cressy Sports Performance. He came to me one day and he was like, "Hey, do you want to buy this Pokemon collection with me?" And I was like, "No, like I'm not going to do that." And he somehow talked me into it, and I started selling Pokemon cards this last offseason and everything. And I made over six figures. And
Hey,
I was
what?
like, I was like, baseball's a hobby right now. I was like, this is
I'm a
just so I can
Pokemon salesman.
this is so I can fund my baseball addiction. And so like there was no real stress
Yeah.
there. Like going after, if I wouldn't have signed out a pro day, I would have definitely tried to get on an independent baseball team and given it like another year or two.
Yeah.
Just because I know I have a pitch that can compete at the big league level. And it's just like those guys that are like roaches and never die are the guys that will eventually make it. Like there was that one guy I forgot that just debuted at the age of 31
Yeah.
this week. I forgot his name, but I've been seeing that all over my social media.
Absolutely. Heck, we had what was it? Would have been 3 years ago now. We had Taylor Sacedo on the show. He's pitching in Seattle now, out of their bullpen, but 28 years old and had never made the majors. And he literally, so the year he made it, we had him on the podcast about a week before he got called up. And he was telling that literally he had quit that offseason. He had told the Blue Jays he's done. He had told all his coaches, his parents, his family, and his high
Yeah,
school coach literally convinced him to just stick with it for one more year. He's like, you're in triple A. He's like, just
yeah,
give
why
it one
not?
more go. And, he's been a big league pitcher for 3 years. So it really is sometimes just sticking with it, long, being that cockroach, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to be. And the nice thing now is, as a knuckleballer, I could be a cockroach for the next 25 years if I wanted
Absolutely,
to.
buddy. Cockroach it up.
Yeah, so like that's the plan, Don't have to worry about money. I got that side business. Like
Yeah.
I'll hang around. I could hang around in freaking rookie ball for the next 3 years, and I'll still be there grinding.
I mean, you
So
are about the most youthful knuckleballer around, buddy. Like, that's the thing with
true.
knuckleballers.
Aren't they usually like 33 when they
Yeah,
start
they're
getting
not.
started?
Yeah, exactly. They're like 32, and they're like, "Well, I guess I'll try this." Like,
Yeah, my clock's
I know.
hasn't even started ticking.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I know you mentioned soccer. I didn't know you played. You must
Yeah.
have been decent enough at it to had to have had an actual kind of like mental debate as to which direction you were going, baseball or soccer. When did you make that decision? And do you miss soccer?
Soccer was always fun to play. We whole family was raised soccer players, and I didn't even play baseball until one year. My little brother was like playing little league, and I'm so ADHD, and I was like, I'm not going to sit here and watch him play baseball. And so I just started playing baseball, and I was good at it, and that's how the whole baseball thing came into play. Because I liked soccer more than I liked baseball.
Yeah,
And then as I got older and progressed, like there was this like splitting decision, like, am I going to go to college for soccer or am I going to go to college for baseball? And like, I truly found a love for baseball. And I was like, this is like what I want to do. And I knew I could have longevity and a career in baseball over soccer. Like I was varsity captain of our high school soccer team, like everything like that. And I was just like, I want to do baseball. So I still played. I basically played all through high school and then quit after I had to go to college. And I was like, baseball is what we're going to do now. And
less running.
yeah, less running. That's the best part. You know, now I went from a buck 70 in high school to 230 pounds. We're all team buffet.
So, Jordan, did you have a favorite major league team growing up?
I did. It was the Detroit Tigers when Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander were on it.
Oh man, what a team. That
I was
was
right
the
there. That was a good team.
Yeah, that was the Tigers at their peak. That was great. Yeah.
So it was actually funny because like Verlander and Scherzer were my two favorite pitchers growing up. Because we're originally from Michigan. We moved to Florida when I was like 6 or 7, but that was the only time I even like truly watched baseball all the time. Was back then, like with my
Yeah.
dad, on the couch cheering on the Tigers. And it's funny now because like now as I progress, like I live next to Prince Fielder, so I've met him multiple times. One of legend in baseball. And then I trained for 2 years at Cressy Sports Performance with Verlander and Scherzer, and got
Amazing.
out with those guys. And so it's like this is like so cool, like the baseball world, how closely knit it is.
That's another comparison between, and I was just gonna say that, like between baseball and comedy, and it's just like, all these guys that you look up to, and you would think not in a million years would I ever cross paths with, but then once
Yeah,
you start climbing those ranks, all of a sudden you are running into them, and
yeah.
isn't
We
it?
sit in the
Isn't it?
same lunchrooms as these guys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do you find like the brotherhood of baseball? It's a real thing, right?
Yeah.
Like when you meet those top end guys, and I know that everyone has a different personalities, and there's going to be a-holes in any
Oh yeah.
career path
That's
or
where you go.
whatever, right? But that
Right.
aside, but for the majority of the time, when you talk to guys that are above you, they're you're all ball players.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah,
Like Scherzer would go around the gym and he'd be upset that guys were afraid to come talk to him and have conversation
yeah.
with him. He told Eric Cressey one day, he was like, "Hey, like I'm not scary. Like come talk to me." And Scherzer's awesome. It was fun hanging out with him and Tristan McKenzie, and Verlander would make fun of my feet because I'd wear those toe socks in the gym. They always give me a hard time, but it was always fun. Like those guys are just in the baseball world, like coming from another baseball player, like I'd say those groups can collide pretty well.
Hmm.
But I mean, who knows? I know some people take it differently when somebody approaches them off the street. It's like, oh my gosh, like,
Of course,
but
of
I'm one of
course.
those guys where I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if nobody knows about me or everybody knows about me. I'm going to treat the same person the same way.
Yeah.
Uh, there's no reason not to love people, and that's how I look at it.
Well, honestly, Jordan, it's been just a joy to chat baseball with you, my friend. Honestly, man, thank you so
Yeah,
much for taking the time to come on the podcast. And I wish you all the best moving forward in 2024. And I can't wait to bug you once you're in AA or AAA to get you to come back on the pod, my friend.
sure, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.